The loudest bird songs in the history of nature woke Mylo from a fitful slumber. He put a hand to his forehead and licked his dry lips with an equally tongue. The sun perched high in the sky and shone with a fierce brilliance. With bleary eyes, he surveyed the broken remains of the bandits' camp. He tried to sit, and a weight of sickness washed over him. The stone always took away his sickness and his injuries. The bandits could be anywhere by now. The Bandit King would have survived thanks to the healing pendant he had given him. If he refused to hand it over, if he had run, people would have died. But the Bandit King would have died during the flash flood. His reign of terror would have ended right then and there. Mylo's conscience pricked him, and he crawled to the shade of a large oak. Oh, why didn't I listen? Look at us, a couple of fools. A voice spoke from the oak tree. Mylo blinked, and he realized there was someone bound to the tree, hidden by the mud and debris of the flash flood. It wore the mask of a Croon, a lowly omnivore that sustained itself on trash from camps. What happened to you? Well, I tried to rescue a damsel in distress, but the vile bandits tricked me and left me here to die. The Bandit King threatened to kill everyone in my village if I didn't give him my power stone. Mylo shuddered, so I gave it to him, and now I'm responsible for all the terrible things he's going to do. The Croon wiggled in his bruised hands. If you untie me, I know a safe place where we can go while we recover from last night's ordeal. Mylo narrowed his eyes. How can I trust you? The Croon let out an exaggerated sigh and said in a serious tone, I swear on my Mahi's grave I won't harm you after you untie me. There was something about the way the Croon said the words that told him Mylo this was the strongest oath he could make. He struggled with the knot for several minutes before freeing the other exile. The Croon stretched and let out a satisfied sigh. The sleeves of his once white shirt billowed in the wind. Thank you. He paused, waiting for Mylo to supply his name. He rubbed his forehead, but it did nothing to ease the ache. You can call me Awesome Possum. And you are? The Croon laughed, but Mylo didn't have the energy to argue with him this time. Most people call me Pierre. Some call me the Masked Bandit. Preserver have mercy, another bandit? Mylo stumbled away from him. How could he even miss the gold earring and the empty scabbard around the exile's waist? No, I'm not one of those savages. I'm a gentleman bandit. Pierre shook his head. I'm not one of the Bandit King's lackeys. He spirited away my beloved jewel, Savannah, in the middle of the night. Threatened to kill her if the chieftain didn't pledge his village to the bandits. Mylo's eyes widened. They took your wife? The man cleared his throat. Well, you see, we're only really starting to get to know one another. Mylo narrowed his eyes. Pierre shrugged. There's a way station not far from here where we can get supplies. Mylo didn't have anything worth trading for the services of a wayfinder, but perhaps he could convince him to help stop the rampage of the Bandit King. The two sorry souls leaned upon one another and stumbled their way towards the way station. They stopped to rest frequently and tried to find something to slake their thirst, but all the waters were muddied, none of the streams ran clear. When they finally made it to the way station, they found it ransacked. Broken glass and furniture littered the floor. The door to the cellar stood ajar. No, Pierre breathed, looking into the cupboards and finding them empty. Oh, the Bandit King here got her first. Mylo rubbed his face. What I wouldn't give for a sip of water right now. They must have lost their wayfinder and decided to borrow this one. Pierre kicked the overturned table, revealing the bloodied body of one of the bandits. Filthy bandits, come back for seconds. The terrifying mud-splattered visions of a woman appeared in the doorway of the back room. They must have looked as nearly disgusting, to be fair. What, it wasn't enough to kidnap my grandfather and steal our supplies? We're not bandits. The hair stood up on the back of Mylo's neck, and he ran for the door. This was not the kind of person you wanted to mess with. Metal armor adorned her chest and one of her arms. Even the village's best warriors only had leather bracers and thick fur for armor. Pierre did not retreat, instead drawing a scabbard like a sword. Now, let's not get too hasty. The woman hurled a broken chair at Mylo's retreating form, and it shattered on the doorframe. Mylo climbed into the nearest tree with low-hanging branches. He crawled along the branches, using his weight to lean towards one of the trees with smooth bark all the way down. Metal armor was heavy, so there was no way she'd be able to get him. I'd rather not hit a woman. Pierre was thrown from the doorway. The warrior stepped out, wielding a spiked shield in one hand and a spear in the other. Pierre stood up from the mud and faced the warrior with his worthless scabbard. Try that again, I dare you. They say there is a fine line between bravery and stupidity. Pierre had crossed it. The warrior easily knocked the scabbard from his hands. Uh, shall we call it a draw, then? Pierre chuckled nervously as he raised his hands in surrender. The warrior bludgeoned Pierre with her shield, and he fell like a sack of potatoes. Mylo held his breath and tried to stay as still as possible. Her eyes immediately found him, and she scowled. Come down here and face me as a warrior. I surrender? Coward! Mylo shook his head and dug his fingers in the moss-covered branch. Call me whatever you like. I'm not coming down there. The warrior stalked over to the tree and wrapped her arms up to get him, but dangerously. She must be the strongest he never encountered. Oh, Preserver, save me. Please stop all this. This is all terrible misunderstanding. Mylo squeaked, slipping down to a lower branch. He grabbed onto the trunk fast. How can you be this strong? A misunderstanding? You call all of this destruction a simple misunderstanding? The warrior kicked the tree and shouted, You cannot stay up in that tree forever. Oh, I could live up here, Mylo snapped with a confidence he didn't feel. It's surprisingly comfortable. You can survive on bark if you're desperate enough. The warrior stalked under the tree for hours, waiting for him to fall. The sun moved through the sky, heading towards her bed in the mountains. Pierre woke some time in between, but wisely pretended to still be unconscious. Grim, weaker and weaker as the sun beat down on him. Might be his undoing. Fainting from this height, but surely he didn't. The warrior would finish him off. I've escaped death at the paws of claws of monsters many times by living up in trees for days at a time. Mylo babbled with nervous energy. I'm speaking from personal experience on the bark thing. The warrior made a face. What kind of a bandit are you? That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not a bandit. You expect me to believe that? The warrior shook off whatever thoughts she had before. If you don't come down and face me in an honorable armed combat, I will kill your friend. He isn't my friend. I've only just met him. I see. The warrior lifted her spear above Pierre's head. But there's no man, Mylo shouted, nearly losing his grip on the soft, mossy tree trunk. Honor? What would a bandit know of honor? The warrior spat. There is no honor in kidnapping an old wayfinder and stealing all the supplies donated to help the lost exiles that roam this part of the outlands. She hefted the spear in her other hand. Perhaps his death will bring me honor after all. Pierre's hands shot up to stop the spear from stabbing him. I swear we did not help the bandits kidnap our grandfather. Mylo slipped further down the next branch. I came to ask for the wayfinder's help to stop the bandit king. The spear moved away a fraction of an inch. How are you going to stop the bandit king? He has the ability to heal. I'm the wretched fool who gave him the healing power stone. I know how it works, and there's a chance of stopping him, if I can survive long enough to try. Mylo hissed. The setting sun lit the world in shades of gold and pink, a beauty that seemed out of place and wrong for the threat of death looming above his head, or rather beneath him. How did you get your hands on a healing power stone? I've only heard of one such power stone, and it wasn't in the hands of some lowlife like you. Warrior turned her spear towards him once more. What did you do to that poor wretch who had the stone? Kill him and toss his body aside? What? No, my mahi gave it to me when I was a little boy. You're lying. The warrior's lip curled in disgust. Thought you would get a little favor with the bandit king? Mylo shook his head. He was going to kill everyone in my village. I had no choice. Giving him the power stone was the only way to stop him, and I didn't kill anyone to get it. The warrior paused. What proof could you give of what you say? How do I know a lie? The village I came from. If there's anyone left after they fought against the bandits, they would vouch for me. Mylo winced, hoping it wouldn't come down to that. They also blamed him for the place. Warwick glared at Pierre. Mylo hesitated. I found him this morning tied to a tree. There's rope burns on his wrists. I don't think he could have helped with the bandits taking your grandfather unless they doubled back to leave him. Pierre pushed back his sleeves and showed his wrists. The warrior's eyes widened. Oh. We didn't help the bandits kidnap your grandfather. I swear it by the Preserver, the mother of invention and the creator of all. Mylo couldn't tell if she was mineralite or elementy, so he used every name he knew for their gods. She could even be an animalian like him, just stripped of her mask. Well, if you're an animalian, I'd swear it by Tizin. The warrior glared at him for several tense minutes before bowing formally. Please accept my apology. I have not behaved honorably. Apology accepted. Pierre scooted back away from the warrior. Mylo could have wept with relief. His muscles were spent from being strung up in the village, fighting against the current last night, and now holding onto this tree for dear life. He clumsily shuffled towards the edge of the branch. But, unlike the young leafy tree he'd used to climb into the tall pine, he didn't want to bend towards the other tree very far. He lost his grip on the smooth branch and tumbled down toward the ground. He caught himself on a lower branch for a brief moment before falling the rest of the way. He had no healing power stone to save him. Ironic, he had managed to survive long enough to convince the warrior not to kill him, only to die by his own clumsiness. The warrior woman caught him, and all the air left his lungs. His face burned with embarrassment underneath his mask. Oh. She set him down carefully. How do you expect to defeat the Bandit King when you can't even climb out of a tree? Mylo didn't have an answer for her. The Preserver would find a way. He had to. Otherwise, Mylo was going to end up dead, and so were a lot of other people. You are in no state to speak. The warrior woman slung her shield on her back. First order of business is to find a clean stream of water. Then we can talk about how we're going to rescue my grandfather. Mylo hesitated. He wouldn't be able to stop the Bandit King alone, and he needed the help of a wayfinder like her in order to survive the Outlands, especially during the twin moons. Pierre scoffed. That will take far too long. There are few people here who don't need their water canteens anymore. It's only a short distance from here. The warrior woman offered her arm to support Mylo. We'll go past the yellow drooping tree until we find a rock formation. Water flows deep underground, so even the flash flood cannot contaminate it. We'll have fun dying of dehydration, Pierre grumbled, wobbling on his feet and grabbing Milo's arm to lead him away from the warrior. He reached the spot where she had hit him. Mylo looked between the two of them. She has survived outside the villages under the tutelage of a wayfinder who knows the Outlands better than any ordinary exile. I trust her judgment. She nearly killed me, only because you didn't have the sense to retreat. Mylo shot back as he followed the warrior woman into the forest. A steady flow of crystal clear water poured out from a crisp autumn morning. Mylo drank slowly in small amounts to allow his body time to adjust. The temptation to stick his head into the water and drink until he burst was strong. He didn't want to get sick. Junia. Mylo looked at the warrior. My name is Junia, the Silver Paladin. She rinsed her armor in the stream to wash away the mud and her blood. A paladin? Well, then she sees herself as a holy warrior for a god. The question is, which one? I'm Awesome Possum. You're an exiled Animalian, then? She didn't laugh or make fun of his name. My Pata was. My Mahi was Mineralite. You? Mylo washed the mud from his face and hair. The mud on his clothes would only help mask his scent, even if it was uncomfortable. My parents were exiled Mineralites. They died when I was young. Junia spoke in the monotone of someone hiding deep pain beneath. The Wayfinder was a friend. He agreed to care for me after they were gone. He is all she has left. Mylo knew what it was like to lose your parents and how hard it was to survive as a child in the Outlands. Anyone who was willing to share their resources with a child and protect them from the many things that wanted to kill them was a good person in his books. The Wayfinder was worth saving. You wanted the Wayfinder's help to defeat the Bandit King, Junia prompted. Tell the truth, the Preserver said. What truth? I was told to run and leave everyone to die, but I traded it for a power stone and a slow death? Or that the Preserver told me to go to stop the Bandit King without a scrap of a plan? Trust me, he said. I will explain when you are ready to understand. Tell her what you need from her. Well, I need someone's help to navigate the dangerous terrain, so I can retrieve my power stone from the Bandit King. Without the stone, he can be easily defeated. How could you possibly get close enough to get the power stone? Well, I told you I know how the power stone works. It isn't like other power stones. It doesn't heal without pain. Mylo winced, thinking about the day before and the encounter with the Ursid. His arm, Junia guessed. His face was covered when he entered my village, and his arm was replaced with clockwork. I cannot imagine the pain he's in. It's none of his plan, so he had told the truth. If you help me save my grandfather, if it is within my power, I will help retrieve your power stone. Junia dusted off her hands from the fir needles littering the ground and offered it to Mylo. Mylo searched her eyes for something, anything to tell him if she was the kind of person he could trust. There was the hardness of a tough life, of seeing things far too young, of innocence shattered by circumstance. But she liked the chaos, the devious malice of someone who enjoyed inflicting the pain she had felt on others. Mylo took her hand and shook it. I give you my word, I will help you to save your grandfather. A snap of twigs preceded Pierre stumbling through the underbrush. Oh, you're still drinking water? I'm refreshed and ready to go. Just need to fill up the canteens I found for the trek. Junia rolled her eyes and gestured for him to go ahead. He stuck his head under the water and took big gulps. He tried to disguise it as cleaning off his face. Invite him, the Preserver said. Junia and I are going after the bandits. If you want to join us, we could always use another warrior. Mylo waited until he drank his fill. Why did I want to invite a liar and a thief on our already treacherous journey? I see. All right. I accept. I will lead us to victory. Pierre took a long-suffering expression. Mylo blinked. What? No? Junia laughed. You do not know how to track the bandits or how to navigate around the most dangerous parts of the Outlands. What makes you think you're going to be able to lead us where we need to go? Fine, fine. I will delegate tracking and navigating to you. For decisions, I will take this burden. Pierre grit his teeth. He wore a sword at his hip now, likely stolen from one of the dead bandits. By what right do you claim the title of leader? Junia stood up. She stood a head taller than her. Pierre drew his sword and held it at her neck. By right of combat, if necessary. I must have hit you harder than I thought. Junia's face was a mask of cold fury. You only won that fight because I've been strung up all night and dizzy with thirst. You won't be so lucky this time. Junia scoffed. If we kill each other, the Bandit King will win without a fight. This is bigger than glory or honor. Bandit King is going to remake the Outlands into some demented kingdom. A tense moment passed. We only have a small chance of stopping him, Mylo said in a small voice. We cannot afford to lose time by fighting amongst ourselves. Pierre huffed. That still leaves the question of who will lead us. I can forage, build shelters, hunt, and start fires. What are you good at? Mylo asked Junia first. I can navigate around the deadliest places, track bandits, and defend us from monsters that stalk the Outlands. Junia crossed her arms. I am an excellent swordsman, Pierre glared at Junia. And, Mylo sighed, I'm a good judge of character. Pierre glanced at Mylo. I can go with less sleep, so I'll take first watch. I want first watch, Junia said stiffly. Mylo bit his lip. Don't you need to rest during the night so you're clear-headed enough to navigate? I don't trust him. Well, I don't like you. Pierre pointed a finger at Junia. Mylo grumbled. Fine. I'll take first watch. Masked Bandit can take second watch. Happy? Both Junia and Pierre said no. Both the warriors were mad at him, but at least they'd stop trying to kill each other. Mylo rubbed his head. Why do I need to take this troublemaker with me? The preserver said, He's just as much mine as you are. But you and Junia, he will die. Junia let out a forced breath. I do not ask for your loyalty. I merely need your word you will follow my instructions, otherwise I cannot promise your safety. You have it. Mylo glanced at Pierre. Pierre threw his hands up in the air. Fine. Mylo wondered, what have I gotten myself into? This was one of my absolute favorite chapters to write. I remember thinking about how I was going to write this and planning this for months, and I'm so excited to be able to share it with all of you. So next week, we're going to be diving into Chapter 10, The Alliance Talks. The day has finally come to mediate the alliance between the kingdoms of Mineral and the United Republics of Elementi. Blood feuds, mistaken identities, and aggressive negotiations. Thank you guys for joining me today. I really enjoyed reading this all to you, and I look forward to sharing with you some more next week.